Really fun, full speed. Oh, they're pretty door. No, it's true. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Folks, we're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. If you would like to address the Planning Commission this evening during the public comment period for an item that is on the agenda, request that you fill out a green speaker request card and turn it into staff prior to the agenda item. Especially for the folks who just walked in, if you'd like to address us, there's some green speaker cards in the back. Just as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and viewing is available via Zoom. The Planning Commission will receive public comment through emails submitted prior to the meeting to staff or in person, and we got one today. Public comments will not be accepted via Zoom for the folks that are watching virtually. City staff, can we get roll call, please?
Chair Durazo,
Present.
Vice Chair Biasotti,
Here.
Commissioner Levine, here, Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Madden is absent, Commissioner Kuhn,
Here.
Commissioner Martin.
Here. All right, can I get everybody to stand for the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the state of forever. To the republic, which is one nation. Visible, liberty and justice for all. Right, item number one, approval from our last meeting on May 7th, 2024. Are there any corrections or edits or changes required from the minutes from May 7th, 2024? All right, we have Johnson with a motion. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor? Right along. And one abstention for an absence on May 7th. Thank you for the clarification. Item number two, public comments on items that are not on the agenda. Just a reminder for items that we are not discussing that are not on the agenda. Do we have any speaker cards to speak for items that are not on tonight's agenda? No. Right, no comments on tonight's agenda for public comment. Number three, announcement of conflict of interest. Do we have any planning commissioners that wish to share or articulate a conflict of interest on tonight's agenda? Okay. Right. Right, item number 7, public hearing, 7A, folks can point out my PDF that is stalling in the moment. A long time here ago. 7A, Glenview Highlands Subdivision, 850 Glenview Drive and 2880-2890 San Bruno Avenue. Request for one block vesting tentative tract map pursuant to section 12.38 of the San Bruno Municipal Code to allow for the construction of 58 residential units and for an architectural review permit pursuant to section 12.108.010 of the San Bruno Municipal Code. Turning it over to city.
Planning Commission and members of the public. My name is Eddie Sale, Assistant Planner, and I will be presenting on this project. As was mentioned in the request, the subject site is at 850 Glenview Drive and 2890 San Bruno Avenue West. There's two permits associated with it: the architecture review permit, a vesting tentative map, and also an addendum to the initial study and MMD. So I will go into the project presentation now. Once the presentation starts working, right? So existing conditions, I'm gonna start off by introducing you to the project details. So the subject site is located on the corner of San Bruno Avenue West and Glenview Drive. The subdivision is the Crestport Park. Currently, it's zoned as planned development, for short, it's PD, and the general plan designation is medium density residential. I'm gonna go a little bit into these classifications shortly, but to start, I want to introduce you to the subject property. Currently, it is composed of vacant land. Most of it is just filled with vegetation, existing tree canopy that leads into the Crestmore Canyon. To the north of the site, there is an existing church that has been vacant for quite a few years and a parsonage at the northeast corner of the site. On the bottom right photo, we see the Crestmore Canyon. Portion of the subject site does drop into Crestmore Canyon, so there is a significant elevation drop. We'll cover that in the site plan. This is the subject property. It is surrounded by a variety of land uses, including the R1 residential zoning district to the north. The other left corner, we see a residential property that's immediately adjacent to the subject site. The upper right photo is the property to the west, which is Calvert property. It's mainly unclassified land. It has some pavement and vegetation. To the south and southeast, we have some commercial neighborhood zoning districts, as well as some R4 zoning districts. So here we see Lenardi's supermarket, we see a gas station, and a little bit further to the south, we have some multifamily properties as well. So quite a variety of land uses surrounding the subject site. So going into the site history, I am going to introduce two of the previous project entitlements. The first one was in the year 2006. This was specifically for the two lots on San Bruno Avenue, so 2880 and 2890. It was for 16 townhouses on 1.08 acres. This project was entitled approved by the city council, but it was never constructed, and over time the permit expired. Fast forward to 2022, we received a new project development proposal with the name of Glenview Terrace. This was proposing a redevelopment on the three parcels, which is composed of 3.28 acres. And this is the three addresses that this current proposal is proposing. But to give you more context on the 2022 entitlement, it was 29 residential lots with 2-story single-family homes. This entitlement also included additional approvals such as a general plan amendment and zoning as well. So on the upper right, we see the townhouses for the 2006 project, and on the bottom right, we see the Glenview Terrace project. So in 2022, the city council approved the general plan amendment. This was to change the designation of the northern lot from low density residential to medium density residential. That way it could be consistent with the two lots that front San Bruno Avenue. This was approved, and currently it has this general plan designation. The zoning district that is most closely associated with the medium density residential general plan designation is the R3 zone district, and I'll cover that shortly once I introduce the proposal. Another major component of the 2022 entitlement was a zoning district amendment. So on the left, we see that the northern lot, 850 Glenview Drive, was zoned as R1. But the Glenview Terrace project was proposing a rezoning to planned development. That way it could be consistent with the two other planned development lots. And the development project also amended the planned development. That way it could accommodate the 29 units that were being proposed. This was approved by city council and it currently holds the PD zone district. So the proposed project, I will introduce you to the site plan, housing units, and amenities that they're proposing. So for the project overview, Glenview Highlands is the project name, and the developer is City Ventures. They plan to merge the three parcels. As mentioned, it's 3.28 acres into a 58-unit condo community. All the units would be solar, all electric, and they vary in size from 1,400 to 1,720 square feet. All units would have 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. They would have 2-car garages with EV ready components, and they offer a diverse range of floor plans, 11 different floor plans to be exact. We will look at those shortly. Another component of this project is that's the tentative track map. Part of this proposal is to incorporate new internal roadways, 3 access points on Glenview Drive. So the streets will be named A through D. New pedestrian pathways will be proposed, and there will be guest parking as well, 7 to be exact. Of the 58 units, 49 will be market rate units, and 9 will be affordable. 3 of those 9 affordable units will be for low income, and the remaining 6 will be for moderate income. Of the 58, 6 units will be 88 higher. And lastly, the project is trying to incorporate the existing topographic features of the property. So there will be extensive private open space and new landscape proposed. So here we have the existing site plan. In orange, we have the property lines. And in blue, we have the existing structures property. On the lower left, you see the church, and upper left, we see the parsonage. As mentioned earlier, this property does drop into the Crestmore Canyon. So here highlighted in green is where we see that high elevation drop. And we can see that with the contour lines there. So now moving on to the proposed site plan. This is what it would look like. They are proposing 9 different buildings from A to I, which will house the 58 units. This colored rendering here shows better demonstrates the location of the streets, the landscaping, the units, the 9 buildings. And in the upper left, you see there's going to be a new community garden accessible to all of the residents. And they will also preserve a large portion of the existing open space. Vesting tentative map is a major component for this project. As mentioned earlier, it's to merge the 3 lots into 1. Highlighted in red is where they will remove the existing 4-foot, 10-foot, and 20-foot public utility easements, and they will incorporate their new private streets, which will house all the private utilities to accommodate 9 buildings and 58 units. These streets will also have emergency vehicle access easements. And as mentioned earlier, there's 3 access points to Glenview Drive, which is Street A, Street B, and Street D. On the northern portion of the site, that is also a pedestrian walkway that will lead to the garden for the residents. So here we have the elevation drawings. There's 3 different combinations that they're going to use for elevations that vary in different architectural materials. So here we have the elevations for buildings A, B, E, and F. On the bottom floor, you see that is the location of the 2-car garages. Some are tandem garages, others are the traditional side-by-side. But here we get a better sense that they're going to use various architectural components such as stucco, stone veneer, lap siding, wood trims, wood railings, gable treatment, parapet walls to screen mechanical equipment located on the rooftop, and the sectional roll-up doors as well. Going on to the next elevation combination is for buildings C and D. It looks pretty similar, but it's just gonna be arranged differently from the previous buildings. But as you see here, it's gonna be 3 stories. And the same is here for building H, G, and I, similar combination, but just oriented differently. One thing I want to highlight with these elevations is that the average height for these buildings is going to be 39 feet throughout the property. That is to say though, that since the parcel has varying elevations and grades, some elevations are going to appear taller, some reaching up to 41. But overall, the average site is going to have a 39 feet in height. As for floor plans, I mentioned earlier that there's 11 different floor plans offered to the potential buyers for these properties. Here we have a table showing the names of these floor plans, but in project info, you see that all of these will provide 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. The garages will vary in size that we'll see in the next slides, but the most popular and used floor plans will be plan 1, 18 total units, and plan 2 with 10. So let's look at these floor plans so you can get a better sense of what these properties will look like. For the interior, on the ground floor, that's the right floor plan. For plan 1, it will have a tandem garage layout, so to accommodate 2 cars. Then the main floor will accommodate the kitchen, dining room, living room, a bedroom, and a bathroom. Whereas the 3rd floor will have the primary bedroom, the 2nd bedroom, and then 2 bathrooms and a laundry room. For plan 2, ground floor serves for the garage. This plan would have the traditional side-by-side garage layout, but similarly to plan 1, the main floor would be for the kitchen, family area, and a bedroom, and the 3rd floor would be for the remaining 2 bedrooms and bathrooms. Lastly, I'm showing plan 3. This one is a fairly larger floor plan, but it essentially has the same amenities, the 2-car garage on the ground floor, living area on the 2nd floor. 3rd floor would be their primary living area with the master bedroom and the additional bedrooms and bathrooms. So the applicant is proposing large landscape upgrades to this property, and they will do so by providing lots of open space. So they will have a 5,318 square foot community garden. They will also preserve 30,000 square feet of open space, primarily on that eastern property line area. And they will also provide open space to its residents through their terraces, porches, and open decks. So they will meet the minimum open space requirement. They will also incorporate trees, shrubs, grass, native plants throughout the development. They will incorporate walkways, so you will see these along the walkways, along with lengthy frontage, as well as the set with adequate less frontage as well. Lastly, highlighted in blue here, we have 4 stormwater treatment areas. So this meets the C3 requirements that California is requiring. But one that I will point out later is located on Glenview Drive. And here is just a glimpse of the type of landscaping that they're going to use. As you can see, they have a variety of trees, ranging from different colors, shrubs as well. That's just going to enhance the visual aspect of the site. So there are off-site improvements proposed with this project as well. Some of the major ones highlighted yellow is new sidewalk along the San Bruno Avenue West and Glenview Drive frontage. These sidewalks will also incorporate new lighting. We received some public comments concerned about the lack of visibility along Glenview Drive, but this here you can see that they're going to address those visibility concerns with the new streetlights. A stormwater bioremediation rollout is proposed on the northern portion of Glenview Drive. So that is adjacent to building H. And here I want to highlight that they are required to connect to a 12-inch existing water line. This goes under Glenview Drive, and it is also located at the intersection of San Bruno Avenue West and Glenview Drive, also at the intersection of Sneeze Lane and Earl Avenue. So the project would be required to connect to these water lines and also connect to the sewer lines located along Glenview Drive. So there would be some work being done along those streets. And this is a photo that shows the work that would be done at the Sneed and Earl section. So traffic improvements, this is also the concern that was addressed in many public comments that we received. The project will incorporate traffic improvements. First, I want to point out the right-in, right-out driveway located on Street A. So this is the first access point along Glenview Drive. So the concern here was there wasn't enough space or distance for those turning onto Glenview Drive to see a car coming in and out. So this is a condition of approval that the applicant has agreed to, and they show it here on the plans. Another major component for these traffic improvements is a new all-way stop sign intersection at Glenview Drive and San Bruno Avenue West. So here they will also incorporate new crosswalks and stop signage as well. I want to point out here that further along east of Glenview, San Bruno Avenue West, there will be a stop ahead sign to warn upcoming traffic that there's going to be a new always stop sign intersection. Now I want to point out that this always stop sign requirement is consistent with the entitlement that we saw in 2022 for the Glenview Terrace project. When they did their environmental review, there was a stop sign warrant analysis, and they were required to break this as well. So this is consistent with that project, and for this reason, we did not need to take this to the City Council or the TSPC because they have already approved that always stop sign in 2021. As mentioned earlier, 9 affordable housing units are proposed for this Glenview Highlands project. 6 will be for moderate income levels and 3 for low income levels. Affordable housing units will match the market rate units. So that means they will all have 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, similar building sizes. They will have the same amenities. And as seen in this photo here, they're going to be dispersed through all 9 buildings. So there's not going to be any differences compared to the moderate units. This disbursement of the 9 units will also ensure that the affordable housing are constructed at the same time to the market rate units. So those who are approved for affordable housing will get their unit at the same time as the market rate tenants. And here we have a breakdown of the floor plans that these affordable housing units will utilize. So the low income housing units will utilize Plan 1 floor plans, and moderate will use Plan 3 floor plans. And there's a combination of Plan 3 as seen here. But let's move on to staff analysis. Here I want to highlight the entitlement process, the CEQA review, and finally conclude with our findings. So the applicant applied through SB 330, which is the Housing Accountability Act. So the project utilizes the existing BD zoning that was approved by City Council in 2022. And it aligns with the Housing Accountability Act to avoid the need for rezoning. The reason they're able to do this is because they are consistent with the medium density general plan designation. As I mentioned earlier, this is consistent with the R3 standards in the municipal code. The medium density residential designation allows for 24 units per acre, despite the PD only allowing 9. This project will be at the mid-range of this density per acre. They're providing 17.6 units per acre. But I do want to highlight that SB 330, under this provision, the project cannot be denied or have its density reduced, as it meets all the objective standards unless the planning commission finds that there's anything that's inconsistent with the general designation. But you may impose conditions of approval, you find that it will be detrimental to health and safety of the surrounding area. As for the architectural review permit, staff worked closely with the applicant throughout these months, doing resubmissions and finally before we deem the project complete. They complied with the residential design guidelines that San Bruno has by incorporating a variety of building materials that are consistent with the surrounding neighborhood and also providing facade articulation. So this here summarizes the findings for the architectural review permit. We find that it's consistent. The 9 buildings will maintain appropriate bulk, scale, character, and building form, as well as roof form. Elements such as balconies, porches, provide facade articulation, such as projections, decorating, treatments, just to enhance the visual interest of these 9 buildings. And it is also designed in such a way where each unit has its own identity. As for materials and colors, as mentioned, we will provide a mix of different materials ranging from stone to wood siding to wood accents. The colors will provide earth tones, and we find that this is functional elements with the surrounding district and consistent with art design guidelines. And lastly, since these units will front the San Bruno Avenue frontage as well as the Glenview Drive frontage, we find that it provides this pedestrian-friendly development through the porches facing for these frontages as well. So overall, we find that it will enhance and beautify this subject property that's currently vacant. So the previous project entitlement was approved by City Council on June 28, 2022, and they adopted an initial study and mitigated negative declaration. Any proposed changes to this ISMMD requires an addendum per CEQA guidelines. So an addendum was required for this project. The city worked with David J. Powers, which was our environmental consultant, to produce this addendum for Clayton Highlands. The addendum assesses the environmental impacts of the modified project to see if it is consistent with the approved project, but also to see if there's less than significant impacts in areas such as aesthetics, energy, greenhouse emissions, and so forth. Overall, the addendum found that it would have less than impactful impacts in areas such as air quality, biological and cultural resources. The transportation analysis also found always stop signs as well as noise. There's no significant impacts there. So MMRP was produced and filed for this addendum. Lastly, I want to touch on the key conditions of approval for this project. There's 171 total conditions for the project, but these are the ones that we want to point out to the planning commission. They are required to finalize an affordable housing plan with the community development department. If approved, then the applicant would work with the city to open this application window for these affordable housing needs. A homeowners association must also be created to manage and maintain all aspects of the property, such as private streets, open areas, private utilities, and so forth. For the fire department, they require ongoing maintenance of the wildlife wildlife, urban interface areas at the east of the property. This goes into Glenview, Crestmore Canyon, so there's concerns about fire hazards there. And we maintain these areas to prevent these fire hazards. And lastly, as was mentioned earlier, they must convert that intersection at Glenview and San Bruno Avenue to always stop. So these are our findings. We find that it's consistent with our general plan. We find that it won't be detrimental to the surrounding neighborhood. It's located in a very large lot, which allows for the construction of 58 units. And we find that it meets our architectural review standards, and the public use and easements proposed for the Westlake tentative map is consistent with the municipal code. So with that, our recommendation is for the planning commission to do two things. One is to adopt the CEQA addendum for the project and the MMRB. And the second is to leave the architectural review permit and invested tentative track map based on findings 1 through 11, conditions of approval 174. That is it for my presentation. The applicant has prepared a presentation to introduce city ventures and the project, so I will share that shortly.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners and Samantha Hauser. I'm with City Ventures. And I'm really excited to be here tonight to discuss the Glenview Highlands project. Oh, Michael, you warned me this was going to happen. All right. So before I go into the project specifics, just a little bit about our company. We are a sustainable infill developer. On the sustainability front, we do a lot of things that you just normally. So we're solar, all electric, no gas. We do things like Nest thermostats, Energy Star appliances, all of the garages and surface parking spots have charging capabilities. But then we also think creatively about sustainability. So things like designing creatively to use less lumber, greener concrete mixes with less Portland content, designing garages so that they can have solar battery backup, creative water saving technology. This is a project where we're proposing fog collection in the community garden, and I'm happy to answer any more questions about that. As infill developers, all of our projects look a little bit different sizes, different scales, different programs, different architecture. I think our job as developers is to understand that we're not the first into an existing neighborhood. And so the goal is to figure out how to complement the existing neighborhood and to become a part of the fabric of the community. We've been working on this project for about 18 months now, and staff has been a pleasure to work with, and we're really grateful for all of the support that they've given us trying to navigate going through the submittal process. So we're here tonight to respectfully request your approval of our Westlake tentative map and architectural review. And that brings me to the site itself. I'm really excited about this site. I live about 10 minutes north in Pacifica, and I've passed the site for years and always think this would be a really great place for housing. What I love about this site is just how walkable it is. It's really close to Overland Park. This is where my son learned how to play basketball. We thought this was lower than it was. It wasn't, but he still learned there. It's really close to the San Andreas Regional Trail System, which takes you down to Crystal Springs. It's walkable to 2 elementary schools, and it's across the street from Lunardi's. So these are things that really make this great for first-time homebuyers or young families, which are the target market for this project. The site itself is underutilized. The southern portion of it is vacant and has been for about 30 years. The northern portion is a vacant church, the associated parking lot, and the caretaker structure behind the church. As staff mentioned, we have a lot of street frontage on this project. So having Glenview Drive and San Bruno Avenue, we really wanted to work on activating the street, creating vibrancy by having front doors accessing both Glenview and San Bruno Avenue. This was Steph's idea. Even the homes that side on Glenview Drive still have their front doors on the street. We have a central open space on the southern portion of the site. This is more of a passive open space with seating areas and 3 really large specimen cedar trees, which exist naturally in this area and on the site, so we wanted to kind of pay homage to the trees. And then, this is a project that obviously had, the 29 home plan approved previously. That plan had a lot of retaining walls on it. And one of the things we wanted to focus on was seeing if there were ways that we could be creative to reduce the amount of retaining required here. So the pink line, represents a place where we've kind of broken the site. The building to the left of it actually has front doors, on the second floor of the structure. And, garages on the street to the left of that building are a story below. And we've taken up a lot of the grade in that building by using the building to retain the site. So we still do have retaining, but it's not nearly as much as in the currently. As staff mentioned, we also are excited about providing new street trees. We're looking at crepe myrtles and elm trees that open to suggestions and providing a brand new sidewalk. And then my favorite aspect of the site is the community garden. So this is designed to have picnic spaces, compost area, a fog collection system that I mentioned, and raised planter beds. We do urban agriculture on a lot of our projects. Because this is a homeowner association project, it creates a natural funding mechanism that allows for either a garden club to be funded, or if the homeowners elect to have the person doing their landscape maintenance maintain the raised planter beds. Here's a view of the current site on Glenview, very close to where it meets San Bruno Avenue. We wanted to kind of take cues from the existing neighborhood. There's not necessarily one unifying architectural style, but all of the homes pretty much in the neighborhood are of kind of the traditional architectural style. So we wanted to make sure that we were using shingle roofs, have different, protruding areas and different recesses to create a lot of articulation, have different materials, have doors that are recessed. And one of the things that I really like about the design, and our architect is here if you have questions. But one of the things that I really like is these are mansard roofs. So you get the benefit of seeing the gables and the shingle roofs, but there's a roof well with parapets that can hide the solar panels and the HVAC units. So those are not things that are on the ground floor that you see in a lot of developments. Those are things that I feel like are back of house. They're intended to be not seen. And so when you experience the project, you can enjoy the architecture. And that brings me to the landscaping. So the proposal, the concept is not for anything like highly manicured. We want it to feel organic and natural, and like it blended into Crestmore Canyon. So, we're just really honored at the opportunity to present to you. We're honored at the opportunity to become part of the Crestmore neighborhood, and we're here to answer any all of your questions. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for presentation, Eliseo. Thank you for a very extensive presentation. Do we have any comments, clarifying comments from Commissioner before we do? And for the folks that just walked in a little bit tardy, if you want to address the commission on this agenda item, sure to fill out a speaker card. So when we open public comment, we'll have your name and everything ready to go. Commissioners, any questions, clarifying questions?
I have two that I think are pretty quick. One was regarding the right in, right out road. Is it the further back street? I think it's B Street. That one is that has the clearance for making left turns across Glenview. Yeah, just like the access. It's like you're not directing people into the neighborhood to make a U-turn somewhere. They'll be able to go around and come out. And then regarding the maintenance of that open space, is this purely the HOA is responsible for this, or will sort of somebody be checking up on them to make sure? Is that like city inspector, their insurance adjuster?
It's the HOA responsible for it, but the fire marshal will see.
We got a data about their building, like fire marshal inspections. Okay, great.
Actually, it's funny, you brought up the right in, right out. I want to ask some questions. I think it's the staff, maybe the applicant, about the history. Let me tell you my issue first, then it'll help me answer the question. That's, so it's the right out that I think is an issue closer to San Bruno Avenue. one of two things, either people are gonna ignore it and, just turn left. I say probably good. If they follow the rule, then they're gonna turn right and they're gonna wanna do a U-turn right away. That's gonna be another disturbance. I almost think just not having it there would be better than having it there, but can you go into the history, why this is like that? Is it a requirement? Is it optional? Please.
So when we first, when this project was first submitted, we routed it to all appropriate departments. One of them was including Public Works, and we shared the plans with our traffic engineer.
Sorry, when you said you first, back in 2022 or again?
For Glen Highlands.
So this time around,
This time around. So we shared it with our transportation engineer, and this was one of the first things that he flagged, which was his recommendation to make this driveway right out home. So since then, that's what City Ventures has been incorporating, the traffic engineer's recommendation in all projects in the open.
So it was a single comment by the traffic engineer. No studies done, or is there any calculations? I don't know. Or is it just like his best judgment?
So that was his best judgment, but another thing that I want to point out, and now that David J. Powers is also on the call with us, she helped create the addendum, and one of the major components for this addendum was the traffic analysis, which was done by Hexagon, which is a transportation consultant.
Sorry, our consultant or the applicant's consultant?
Ours.
Okay.
Yeah, so, one of their traffic engineers for Hexagon actually went to the site for one week in late November and early December to take traffic counts. And based on these traffic counts, they made the conditions of approval for the secret review, and they didn't oppose the traffic engineers recommendation and the running right now. That has been consistent with the oppositions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just add, it is similar to the 2022 proposal. I don't remember exactly where the first driveway was, but it was fairly close. There was a row of houses along San Bruno Avenue, so there was a driveway in that same location.
Hey, before I open public comment, anything else from the commission? Not seeing anything. So I'd like to go ahead and open public comment, and before we go to the cards, I know there's a presentation from the applicant and the architects here. Is there anything that you would like to share, add, or respond to before we open the general public comment?
No, we're here to answer any questions. Yeah.
All right, open public comment. Let's go to the speaker cards.
We have one speaker card for this item, and their name is Sidra Uche.
Hi, my name is Siddharth Jain, from this project. I'm curious about the traffic study, because last year, we approached the traffic, commission, the council. They did a study and they found that, cars were speeding way above the speed limit. And they did a whole big study. And since then, we managed to get like 2 speed humps on the street,
Can we get the timer for public comment?
which haven't been installed yet. But real quick, I'm really curious, like, looks like we're gonna basically triple the traffic on Glenview Drive. So I don't understand how is that safe, given that we already have safety issues at the Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. That was it. Okay, motion to close public comment. Would someone on staff like to take that comment?
Yeah, sure thing. So I want to point out the conditions of approval, specifically number 101, which is one of the public works conditions of approval. It says the applicant shall install a speed hump along northbound Glen Drive. Since the island location says speed bump shall be determined by the traffic engineer. So there will be the speed bump along Glen Drive to Discourage speeding along this road.
That's just current traffic. Triple the traffic in the area.
So I can make a general comment about traffic. Again, there's a traffic study that was for this by Hexagon. What, the commission will want to be aware of it, that the public as well. The city under state law can no longer look at traffic as an issue in terms of level of service, or the amount of traffic for any residential project. And so the metric that is now used is called vehicle miles traveled. And so what the traffic analysis shows is that because this is a high density project rather than single family residential, it actually has a lower vehicle miles traveled than single family homes, which are more reliant on vehicles. So I know this is somewhat difficult to understand and sometimes a little counterintuitive, but at any rate, the metric that we're required under state law to use to evaluate these projects is vehicle miles traveled. So the only thing we are allowed to do is to look at functional traffic issues, such as whether Glenview Drive and San Bruno Avenue would require a stop sign or a traffic signal. So we did there was an analysis done both for a traffic stop signs as well as signals. The traffic warrant analysis showed that stop signs would be appropriate and it met the requirements in terms of traffic volume for stop signs. But it did not, it fell far short of requiring traffic signals because the traffic volume isn't there and would not be after the project is added. There was a level of service a study also done and is included in the traffic study, which shows that there's slight delays at all the intersections about just 1 or 2 seconds in the morning peak hour and in the evening peak hour as well. But again, we cannot use level of service to recommend a smaller project or any other things. Again, we're required under state law, the Housing Accountability Act, to consider and recommend approval to the planning commission of a project that meets the general plan density and zoning. So that's kind of where we're at with the project.
Wondering, this is similar, but I did wonder whether we're already recommending a speed hump, I guess, here, a speed table to help reduce speeds, but I was wondering whether a traffic camera installed on the intersection might be able to capture both issues with, to the extent that there is anyone that's ignoring the right in, right out, and potentially speeding issues. One would hope the table would deal with it to a large extent anyway. Okay. Folks, let's close public comment because we still have it open, and then we can bring it back to commission for discussion. I'm happy to move to close public comment. Motion and a second, and then can we get a vote?
Chair Durazo,
Aye.
Vice Chair Biassatti.
Aye.
Commissioner Levine. Aye. Commissioner Johnson. Aye. Commissioner Kuhn.
Aye.
Commissioner Herman.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Bring it back to the commission, Commissioner Dodd.
I sit here and think about this project, and there's nothing better than to see growth. Growth is really important. I have lived in that area and I've gone up and down that street for the past 46 years, sometimes 2-3 times a day. I live in Victoria Highlands. And over the years, there's been changes to that. I actually lived there when the gas station was there. Really, the concerns that I have are it's not so much the traffic, but the way traffic is conducted. It is really interesting concept of how people moves up there. Part of it, I think, is habit we've gotten into with the way it's been empty for such a long time. But there are other conditions that are consistent, which is fog, horrendous wind. Wind is beyond reasonable sometimes. You don't even think that you would stay on the street if you're walking on it. So I think that careful consideration, I don't think a stop sign is enough. Not on traffic and safety, it's not my jurisdiction. But I don't believe a stop sign is enough, just because crossing those areas, trying to look both ways when there is this massive amount of weather that's beyond our control. I think safety is your concern. How it's handled. It's very different for me as a commissioner that we don't have any control any longer on buildings, whether go from one size to another. The state regulates now, and it's no longer, we don't make those types of decisions. We're not allowed to make those types of decisions any longer. So if you look at all the other peripheral kinds of things that take place there. So I think that safety is the key thing, and how to manage the safety of all those components. People walk to and from that area, they're used to parking in that area, walking the trails. I'm one of them. I also walking the neighborhood walks to and from Lenardi's, and the new additions that were there next to Lenardi's, have been seamless. Back in the big picture, not without issues, but really well done and well taken care of. But this is a completely different community here, and I would want to voice my thoughts here in your record that safety is like primary concern.
Mary brings up an interesting point, and that's the former use of that site was a gas station. Do we need to have any soil studies done because of the tanks that weren't around at that point in time?
A soil report was conducted, as per the.
Okay, very good, thank you.
I just had a couple comments and questions. I'm excited about having Molly stop. I don't live up there, but I've been taking my kids up to school for the last, 8 years or so, and now we're making carpool through the same, we go through this intersection all the time. And it is tricky and stressful to try to make that turn on Glenview onto San Bruno Avenue, especially if you're going to be heading downhill, going east. And then when you add in the pedestrian possibilities, like it's a little hairy out there for the pedestrians. So I'm really glad that there's going to be a way stop. And then I wonder, I don't know if the traffic study looked into this, but the possibility of adding like a crossing beacon for pedestrians, especially if we're going to have, like, I'm excited we're having more density, bringing in hopefully more people housed right by a grocery store, right by a convenience station, right by the highway. I think it's a really sensible place to put some more density, but they're going to be crossing that street to get to Lenardi's, and then you have to go up a hill, which is so nice. So I was just wondering about a traffic beacon. Is that something that they studied?
Yes, it was considered however, the city, traffic engineer and city engineer did not recommend it as part of condition 102. So.
Just that they just didn't find it necessary, or did they think it was?
Yeah, with the additional cost and maintenance that ultimately would come back to the city, but just in looking in terms of what the project was and what the developer's responsibilities would be for the offsite improvement at that time.
So the developer's in charge of the expense and installing the four-way stop, but it would be the city's job if we wanted to be in.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, I'm not a traffic engineer, but I've seen them, so much on Camino at their schools, and they seem to be really effective. So I was just curious about that. And then actually, I do have a question for the developer. I'm really impressed by the thought and the care that you put into the architecture and trying to meet, it's a slightly diverse architectural neighborhood. Not the most one in San Bruno, there's a lot of really interesting little creative neighborhoods, but the one thing I was looking at is you did such a good job of putting articulation on kind of the front doors, like the front door sides of the building. And then there's the other side of the building that has the garages. And I'm just concerned it's gonna feel kind of like an alley, flat garages. And I'm wondering if there is any sort of articulation, if there might be, like say, lighting or like a trellis or pergola, some sort of landscaping that will give it some sort of depth, or maybe like a recessed garage door to have some sort of detail there.
Yeah, and I can ask, Dan to come and add to anything if I miss it. But we try to do 360-degree architecture. There are pop outs and articulation, especially on the second and third floor. Also between, driveways, there are painting pockets, where shrubs are efficient. One thing that we've done on a lot of our projects is, added a trellis over the garage. So instead of having shrubs there, we could do a vine wire up to a trellis and add those. I wouldn't add them on all of them because they seem to look a little busy.
Yeah.
But like maybe every second or every third one, and I would work strategically with our architect and, to make sure that it was the appropriate amount.
I think that sounds wonderful, because that ends up being more of a public space than you'd imagine, because you're coming and going, you see your neighbors, the kids take their bikes and grab the balls and go and they play in that, it's not an outlet, it's a streetway, but, yeah, I think I'd really love to see that detailing added.
We will add that.
Thank you. That's it.
Shots, thoughts? Just briefly, I like the project, it hits on so many points that I think are needed in our city. You know, the potential market of young families and children and the need to, enroll those kids in our schools, both Catholic and public, I think is important. I think the need for housing is important. At our last planning commission meeting, this whole thing about wiring the garages for electric vehicles just blows my mind, like makes me wanna go buy an electric car. I don't have one now, but I think I should. So I really like the project, and I'm in support of it. And if there's no other questions or comments, I'm happy to make a motion to agree.
Two separate.
Yeah. You wanna articulate those or?
Well, I hope that we adopt the CEQA addendum for the project and the associated mitigation monitoring program.
I'll second.
Chair Durazo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Biassiatti.
Aye.
Commissioner Levine.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Kuhn.
Aye.
Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And second, I would move that we approve the architectural review permit, AR 23014, and the vesting tentative map, TM 23002, based on findings 1 to 11 and approval 1 to 171.
Right, happy to second.
Chair Durazo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Biassiatti.
Aye.
Commissioner Levine.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Kuhn.
Aye.
Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Just articulate next steps. Planning Commission is the final approval body for this project. There's a 10-day appeal period with the date of the Planning Commission's final action. Appeal should be made in writing, filed with the city clerk within 10 days after the final action of the Planning Commission, and is described in section 12.140.020 of the San Bruno Municipal Code. All right, moving right along here. Right, public hearing 7B, 320 Cypress Avenue. Request for an architectural review permit to allow a legalization that would result in a gross floor area over 3,000 square feet pursuant to section 12.200.070 of the San Bruno Municipal Code, and for a use permit to allow a continuation of non-conforming site setback pursuant to San Bruno Municipal Code, section 12.92.020, and legalization that would exceed the floor area ratio pursuant to San Bruno Municipal Code, section 12.96.060, and a legalization that would exceed the permanent floor area pursuant to San Francisco 12.96.06 and a resulting lot coverage that exceeds the lot area restrictions pursuant to San Francisco code. I'll turn it over to city, presentation.
Great, thank you so much. Good evening to our commissioners and members of the public. My name is Christy Wu. I'm one of the assistant planners here, and I'm representing item 17. So this again is 320 Cypress Avenue. Moving right along, we're going to start with the location to provide for context on tonight's item. This is 320 Cypress. It's located between Crystal Springs and Clark Avenue. It's also located in the Huntington Park 3 subdivision where our typical lot size that we'll find is 5,000 square feet. This home was built in 1928, which is pretty similar to the homes along the street from 1914 all the way to 1960s. And here's some photos of the subject property. You'll notice that this looks like a split level home with a one story, but there's actually a second story kind of in the back, and then we're looking at the garage as well. And staff provided access to the property for this first went to ARC, and we were allowed to take a look at the rear yard and the view from the second story deck. So that is part of the permit thing. And here's some context regarding the projects, or excuse me, the property surrounding. So we have properties across the street, to the left of the subject property, behind the property, and then to the right. And right along to the proposed project. So, like Chair DeRosa said, there's a lot to this permit. First, we're going to legalize 1,117 square feet, and that includes 543 square feet on the first floor. The proposal also requests 574 square feet to legalize on the second floor. There's a second story side yard deck. And included in the first, we're looking at an ADU of 1,000 square feet. Additionally, to the second story, they have renovations to the kitchen and the dining space proposed as well. And then on record, this would be a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom. If this were to be approved, it would then result in a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And just a reminder for ADUs, under state law, cities are required to ministerially approve ADUs. And this would mean ADUs up to 800 square feet are waived from floor area ratio, impervious surface, lot size, and lot coverage. So what that means is, as part of this legalization, rather than looking at it as 1,117 square feet, we're actually legalizing 317 square feet. And here's the project details summary. So going over what has been proposed or what's existing, they do exceed the floor area ratio and the gross floor area, as well as the lot coverage. But once we waive 800 square feet of the view, the numbers do decrease. And highlighted in here as well. And as a reminder, this is going to be legalized at 317 square feet rather than that 1,117. And moving on to the site plan. We're looking at the existing footprint in blue, the unpermitted addition in red, sort of orange color in the rear, and in the purple we have the unpermitted deck. In the red, we have the ADU outline on the first floor, and as a reminder, that is 1,000 square feet of that first floor. Next, we'll go over the floor plans showing existing versus proposed. So, like we saw on the last slide, we're looking at the existing home in blue, the unpermitted addition in orange. We have internal stairway in yellow, the garage in gray, and ADU outline in that red dotted line. To the second floor, have an existing space in blue, and red the unpermitted. In purple, we're showing the unpermitted deck, another stairway, and then in green we have the internal renovations. Now moving on to site elevations, because this is a legalization case, we're only looking at what's existing because we don't have anything prior to what was previously, what it looked like before. So to the front, there's no change just because most of the legalization is in the back, and there's no, obvious changes to the interior renovations that show on the exterior. On the left elevation, we've highlighted where we believe the, rear addition has been added, so we have the red dotted line, and then in red where the proposed legalization will occur. To the right, we have the same sort of look, but it's maybe on the opposite side, so it's still at the rear, and then the deck as well, as you see here. And then at the rear, we have another photo. So again, most of this rear portion is going to be utilized, or that's the request for tonight. But here's a photo of what it looks like right now. And tonight's recommendation is for the planning commission to approve AR 24-003 and use permit 24-004 based on findings 1 through 8 and conditions 1 through 26. The next steps for this permit, should the decision being made tonight, is that there would be a 10-day appeal period from the date of the final planning commission action. And if approved, the use permit would expire after 2 years if no building permit is issued. I would like to add that the applicant is in the works of submitting a building permit. So just wanted to get you aware that they're working on structurals to have a submittal soon. And that's all for staff. We can be able to take some questions from the commissioner.
Thank you for the report. City, any questions, comments? We do a public call. Please.
Hang on. I think I disagree with your net calculation of what we're trying to legalize. You said, for 317 square feet, something like that. It's, however, the second level has unpermitted 574 square feet. And that's not part of the ADU.
That's correct. So it's not right with the ADU. Let's see.
So yeah, stay on this slide. Here you go. So that on the first floor, all of that 453 square feet is part of the ADU. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then there's more than that as well.
Right.
And then on the second floor, none of that is part of the ADU. So I would argue that at least 574 square feet needs to be legalized.
Yeah, I think that is a fair statement.
Okay.
I don't believe there's any specific. I don't think there's any specifics in regards to what can be waived. We do know that because of the was at least 800 square feet, that's something that we can waive. But I do understand the sentiment regarding our second floor.
Yeah.
That's something that we had looked into prior.
Great. And so like the follow-up is, would that change anything too? That, you know, as we later discuss it, if it were to be more, would that change, how would that change the proposal? Or the recommendations?
I think at this stage, it would only change the numbers that we're providing to the commission. But since they're not adding any square footage, they're not adding anything further. This would be the only, we could change it to staff report, I think at most, like, would you agree?
Yes, I mean, the question here is just, the overage on floor area. And there is a chart in your staff report on page 143, which I think lays out the numbers pretty well. So the gross floor area is 4,665 square feet, but then that reduces to 3,865 square feet, which you minus the ADU, which is the zoning FAR limit would be 2,750 square feet. So it is over on the FAR. And so when this, the architecture review committee did review this, and they may want to also weigh in on this. So really the question for planning commission is just the, additional floor area, overall with the, with the addition onto the house, so.
I have one more question, like, and this one's kind of tricky, but, given what's happening here, would the city's guidance be to, give our recommendation as if it were a new project, like a ground up addition? Or is there any kind of thought process legally or judgment wise that we should make considering its existing?
Well, the addition's been there for over 50 years, hasn't been problematic, it's really pretty low profile in terms of its, flat roof. You really can't see it from the street. And again, the architecture review committee members may want to weigh in. I think the architecture review committee felt that, the fact that we were unable to find permits for the addition, was a little challenging. And I think the architecture review committee, and I don't want to speak for them, I would welcome them to to weigh in here what their thoughts were. But I think the thought was that, in this particular case, does granting the additional floor area, is it problematic in any way, or is it precedent setting, which I think the architecture review committee landed on? Well, it's existing, it's not going to change. In fact, with the ADU, that square footage gets, subtracted out. So I mean, that was ultimately, I think, some of the reasons why.
That's an accurate summary.
Yeah, that's some of the reasons why the architecture review committee unanimously is recommending approval to the site planning
I
commission.
think I need to ask you in a different way that I didn't get the answer. Legally speaking, should we approach our recommendation as if it were a ground up new project without the structure existing?
Well, again, it's because of, if this were, I think, someone who was caught doing an addition like right now, and we do have folks in town that are making additions onto their homes, and we put stop work orders on them. And for those situations, we absolutely require them to file for architecture review or so forth. I think in this case is unique because of the passage of time and the inability to collect all the records. Based on our research, we felt that we couldn't find the permits for the addition. But again, it's 50 years ago. So it's really, I think the planning commission has, full authority to, look at this case, based on its own merits rather than, comparing it. And I apologize if I still didn't answer your question. It's still
Brilliant stuff, but that's good. Thank you.
okay.
I would also add that, yes, we are addressing this as we would for the construction. If we were not, we would not be having this hearing. We want not going through this permit process. We've done exactly what we would for any other addition. We're taking them to ARC. But we took them to ARC, we're not taking them to planning commission. So these are all the exact steps that we would take for any other addition. We brought it to our reviewers. So yes, maybe we've done the exact same thing that we would for anything else that we typically process.
So that helped me a lot more. Thank you, Christine.
Christine, in your presentation tonight, you didn't give us the same background as you did during the architectural review. That might be helpful for some of the commissioners, knowing a little bit of the history of how we got here.
Of course. So the difference between the ARC presentation and tonight's presentation was there's a section missing, regarding the property history. There are a couple attachments to the staff report that I did not refer to, but we can go over these. In attachment E, we found through our city records at least, that the structure was built in 1929. The building was recorded at 1,900 square feet with a basement of 1,900 square feet as well. In 1950, the county appraisal reports also include a one-story basement where the numbers are not so consistent with a building and basement of both 1,761 square feet. So there that is. So from the get-go, the numbers didn't really align between the city and the county. At that here, the shape is pretty similar, but again, because the numbers were a little off, we took that with a grain of salt. In 1977, the county went out again for an appraisal, and they did record that there was a rear addition found through drive-by. There was no city building permit recorded, and after speaking with one of our building inspectors, when they do see an addition out there that may not be permitted, they typically add the building permit number. In this case, there was one provided in attachment D. Then in 2022, the home experienced a fire, and so what they did was they applied for a fire repair permit in December. This was to repair 250 square feet and then conduct the interior remodels that were presented earlier. The permit was issued in March of last year and it has since expired. Then later on, during one of the inspections, our inspectors found possible unpermitted electrical, plumbing, and mechanical, and they brought this up through a code enforcement case. And so this was brought to our attention last year. In 2024, the owner applied for legalization of the addition and the deck. So that was kind of why we brought that to the ARC in April. And just a comparison between the county records that were found in 1950 and the legalization permit that was received in 2024. They highlighted the unpermitted area in the red outline. So there's that difference. So that's really kind of what the difference was between the ARC and the presentation that we saw tonight. Just the current history. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are.
I have been intending to ask anyway, whether we know what the source of the fire was and whether that's, covered in, I know there's a lot of cases with unpermitted electrical being the source of a fire, and so I hope our code enforcement is, covering, fixing whatever needs to be fixed in that regard.
So we were never able to identify the source of the fire, which again makes that kind of tricky. So it's nothing specific, but electrical was one of the topics that our building inspector pointed out.
Context. Before we do public comment, just any more questions, comments, not seeing any.
I'm not sure whether the applicant is presenting or whether there's any sort of design discussion.
So the applicant is available to speak. She has joined us through Zoom. Quite a few family members are in person and they have submitted speaker cards. So let's see.
I have one question. I noticed the ADU looks to be accessed from the back of the main house as well as through it looked like it was adjoining through the stairwell, and I wasn't sure whether, with it being a separate dwelling unit, it's required to have locking doors separating it from the main house or anything like that. Yeah.
So for ADUs, they are required to have separate or independent living facilities. There's no specific language regarding security within that ADU provision, but as long as they have at least one independent egress access point, then that's kind of our minimum.
So there was a reference to the applicant who was online. I guess should we check in and see if they want to respond to anything that we prior to vote.
Okay, so Brandy is online, I'm gonna unmute her, so Brandy, whenever you're ready, and if you'd like to speak, you can. If not, feel free to give us a signal that you have nothing else to add. So it doesn't look like she's, adding anything to our discussion, so we can move on to the speaker cards if you'd like.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and, open public comment, and if she wants to circle back and address us, then she can.
Our first speaker is Victor Villarreal.
And let's get the timer. Just a reminder, folks, we have 3 minutes. Some comments, we give a timer. Go ahead, please.
My name is Victor Villarreal. I'm a occupant of this residence. I was there when the fire happened. I was the one that put it out. The fire department showed up with 2 men with, pumps, and they weren't able to help because their truck didn't have any water. I've lived at that house, now for 20-something years. The windows are probably made in the 70s of the so-called, unpermitted space. I'm really upset that, you know, knowing that the structure was built back in the 70s when there wasn't a code for the amount of living space or the amount of land that you own, and things were a lot different where, you know, we can make an agreement and shake hands, and it was probably a lot tighter than, you know, a contract. You know, that now the city is taking this opportunity, which was a tragedy. My wife's 91-year-old grandfather, who is a veteran, is the owner. He's very sick, going through heart failure right now, and isn't having a good time. He wants to go home to pass. He wants to finish his days there. Who was a volunteer for the city for many years. I remember helping him clean the fireman's hall next to Artichoke Joe's. He was there, you know, handing over keys, cleaning up after parties, and you know, he's pretty much lived a really straight life. Bless you. He's the pillar of his community. He's been a volunteer fireman. He's volunteered his cars to the fire department to watch the young cadets chop them up with the jaws of life. Right? He's been active in his community, and this structure has existed longer than some of us have been alive. And I haven't heard the urgency to try to see if the structure was built correctly, if they used the right nails, the hardware, if the structure was done right. Everything has been about aesthetics, and supposedly we have too much living space now, and the answer to that is to add more. Now I understand San Bruno has the urgency to find housing for YouTube developments and possible bio facilities and whatnot. You know, which is great. I just don't feel that this is the case. I mean, this was a tragedy. The inspector walked into our home and 10 minutes later came out and told us we had to pull a demo permit and remove half the home. I don't know how fast your process is to pull drawings and be able to find that type of information, but the fire chief in charge that they pulled him to the side and said this isn't the time. Right, so we're actually running out of insurance money, right? The city came, gave us the permit, the inspector, you know, walked the entire home, spoke about it, looked at the unpermitted space, took measurements, seen that the windows were older than he and pretty much accepted the permit. Then, you know, after some snooping of some city employees, we got a stop work order where they wanted to look into it. The only reason that the fire marshal mentioned it could have been that electrical is because it was novel tube and everyone's scared of novel tube, right? This structure has sat for a long time throughout Frisco. You know, there's 3-4 generations. The grandmother passed holding my children's hands about 2 years ago, right? I mean, it's a home. And right now we're starting to feel pressed for time and like victim. My son plays football for Cappuccino High School. He's the running back and probably be starting, right? I know the name of an employee at Walgreens. I know a couple of names of Walgreens employees. I mean, we're part of this community. You know, we have neighbors here, loved ones. And we just want this to go away. We need this to go away. I mean, I wish my wife's grandfather was, you know, healthy enough to be here. You guys could see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Alexia Villarreal.
Good evening, my name is Alexia Villarreal. I'm the eldest great granddaughter of the homeowner of 320 Cypress Avenue, Carmelo and Sarah. I would like to begin by thanking the Architectural Review Committee for their unanimous approval to move forward with the ADU proposal, and also preserving our generational home. Today I stand before you with the support of my family and neighbors to represent my grandfather, who is too ill to speak tonight for himself. He is watching and listening at home, so hi, Grandpa. My grandfather is an honest man, quite literally the most beloved man in San Bruno if you were to ask many lifelong residents. He chose San Bruno in the 60s to not only start his family, but to join a community. A United States naval vet, Carmelo exhausted himself to his community, having been the owner of multiple complexes here in San Bruno, a volunteer firefighter, and a father of 6, and many more. Carmelo has established a living legacy and has witnessed the evolution of San Bruno that not many can share and experience. Today, my grandpa just wants to go home. We've been out of our home for almost 2 years, and my grandfather's growing ill and tired with every day that passes. This process has been very long and unjust to him and his health. His wishes are just to be home again and to be connected with my grandmother. This house in question is not just a property, it is a safe haven in which my family has cultivated over 60 years for not just themselves, but for the greater San Bruno community of childhood friends, neighbors, and more. Tonight, we ask for your sympathy, understanding, and urgency to get us back into our house as soon as possible without the compromise of demolition. The areas of the house in question tonight, which we refer to as our back room, hold invaluable importance to my family, more than what numbers and lines on a permit can express. Your grandparents utilized this space in a number of ways throughout the decades: family parties, PTA meetings, weddings, and more. Most importantly, my great-grandmother Dorothy Pereira spent her final moments in the very room in question, surrounded by family and love. We plead that you understand the significance and sacredness of this space, as it is our safe space where we go to feel our grandmother. She rests in peace. My great-grandfather and all who join us today, which include family, friends, and neighbors again, stand before you in a heartfelt plea in the aftermath of a devastating fire that has left our family home in jeopardy. We have been confronted with the absence of permits, which we believe to be clerical error, as our grandfather affirms that all necessary paperwork was properly handled with the city at the time of construction back in the 60s. We are seeking assistance from the city to rectify the situation, emphasizing the resilience of our home, which has withstood numerous events over the past 6 decades. We are prepared to comply with the city's requirements to secure a use permit and are urging for expedited support to prevent further hardship, as time is of the essence. With the end of June looming, we face the prospect of homelessness, my family of over 9, and are appealing to the Planning Commission's sense of compassion to help us restore our home, which holds deep sentimental value, especially for our grandfather, who desperately wishes to spend his final stay there. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is George Ramirez.
Hi, everybody. I'm sure I share what I shared with you last time I was here, but.
You know what, maybe you should, because we all were there, so you have the time to do it.
Yeah,
So please.
my little bit, I live at 321 Cypress Avenue, right across the street from, right, this is the family here. And, anyways, my father-in-law, Michael Schindler owns my home. His dad before then, Robert Schindler, owned the home. Robert Schindler knew, Leo, anyways, he knew Leo, not just as a neighbor, but knew him as a community man. And my great, my father-in-law's dad was also on the planning commission. I just know my family personally did help this family do some of the work many years ago. And I know that even, through the years that, he would have never let anything go. My father-in-law's dad was a straight shooter, World War II guy. I mean, he would never let anybody in the family or anybody even go in that house if it was not safe. I mean, he cared about his community. Anyway, my family in general, my father-in-law's not here tonight. I don't really see any of my other neighbors. The home has been that way I've been living in that house personally for 20 years. You know, I haven't seen anything done. Anyway, thank you guys very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Our next speaker is Eric Peterson.
Hi, good evening. Like to thank the commissioners for your time and coming out. So, you know, pretty much everything's been said. It's, you know, an existing structure. They're not asking to create, but to retain what the family's been enjoying for 50 plus years. 4 generations were living in that house, which caught fire, and all 4 plan on resuming residence. If we can get a permit approved to, for this addition, so it can be, you know, brought up to code, which is the rest of the house being done right now. And, hopefully, you can see your way clear to permitting the addition. And, thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Our next speaker is Leo Villarreal.
My name is Leonidas Villarreal. I attend at Parkside and I'm 12 years old. I'm here today to ask you to approve of our house permit so we don't tear down some of the important pieces of our home. I have all my memories from my grandma's room, and in the back room is my grandpa's sleep. These are parts of the house in question today. I'm ready to go back home and bring my 91-year-old grandpa home with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment. Well done.
Our last speaker is Scott Rutherford.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Rutherford, and I was born and raised in San Bruno. I've been friends with the Inferaera family for over 50 years. And what I want to do right now is just tell you guys a little bit about Leo. He's not here today. He's 91 years old and he's at home sick. You have heard from 5 of his great grandchildren who live in the house right now. But Leo moved into San Bruno in the 50s. They end up moving to the 320 Cypress in 1963, him and Dorothy. And at that point, they had 3 children. And they wanted to have a bigger family, so they moved to a house that was bigger. They end up having 6 children and had 4 foster children living in that house. Leo has always been very active in the community. He was 20 years as a volunteer fireman. He was the last fire captain in the volunteer fire department for San Bruno. He was in charge of the Fireman's Hall for years. He was a parishioner of St. Bruno's Church, where he did readings and he was in charge of the collections for years. He would build and take down the traditional fireworks displays, and then he would go work in the veterans book. As you heard, he was a longtime veteran. Currently, Leo is 91 years old. He lives in a house with his son, his granddaughter, and her husband Victor, and 6 great-grandchildren, all born and raised in San Bruno. Leo was a blue-collar worker. He worked for PG&E for 40 years. He does not have the financial means to recover from this if this permit is not given. He will end up having to move out of San Bruno with his family. I am like I said, a long-time San Bruno person. I had to move out of San Bruno, and a lot of people who I grew up with have had to move out of San Bruno, and that would be a tragedy for the city of San Bruno. So I appreciate your time, and I just want to make sure you knew who Leo was.
Thank you for your comment.
That is all speaker.
All right, thank you for the comments. Can we get a Motion to close public comment. Motion, do we have a second? Can we get roll call vote?
Chair Durazo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Biassiatti.
Aye.
Commissioner Landine.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Coon.
Aye.
Commissioner Harmon.
Aye.
All right, public comment is closed, bringing it back to the commission for questions, comments, and possible action.
I'm deeply sympathetic to the concerns expressed, just because, I was always intending to support, the overall permit. Just with some details. I did think in the design that there's like and I think it's something that potentially it would be part of the renovation and not actually part of what is requiring this permit, but in the renovation design, they have a pantry designated, that's like you can walk down a hall and then back up a hall, and it looked like if they moved the refrigerator, you could get better access to it. I don't know, something to consider for, the actual execution of it, which hopefully wouldn't require amending the permit at all. But yeah, in general, I'm supportive.
I'll get on my soapbox a little bit here. So the reasons I asked questions about the legality and different things is to focus on us. Actually, our job here is to look at the facts in front of us and make the decision in a certain way, right? And that way here is, if it were ground up, would we approve it? And I can take a guess at some of you, but in terms of size, in terms of parking, potential privacy issues, like setbacks, there's things that might fall outside of it. But I'll say beyond that, there's kind of a goal, a vision that the city's had. And that's like generational housing or community, right? So all of the things that we're trying to build into our code is really to foster something else as the vision. And so while it might fit outside the size, we usually go a little bit beyond, right? The setbacks, I think we would have let it go because that's sort of ingrained. So there's different things here, but they've kind of shown here that they're accomplishing the vision that we want for December. So I think you guys understand where I'm going with this.
I think I do. Please.
Kind of for the history of this, and it's really, number one, it's inconsistent way back in the 1920s. And, but through it all, the square footage remains pretty much the same. Bottom line, what I wrote down here, that staff wrote, that it says, the staff cannot prove that the addition was unpermitted. Bottom line, that's why I stand. And the fact that I cannot prove that, and we would, from my point of view, would take this into different consideration. That, can't compare it to anything else. From my perspective.
Comments?
In addition to Commissioner Thompson's comments about the clarity or the lack of clarity about the permits, we're not going to get any answers to that. But I think it's fair to give the applicant the benefit of the doubt that even though there are no records that could have been lost either at the city or the county, that they did make the effort to go and get those permits. The addition has been there for so long. The neighbors are familiar with it. It's attractive. It's cohesive with the house and with the neighborhood. It's housing a family, multi-generational family, and we're in the business of making sure that our community members have housing. So I'm supportive of the project.
Okay, unless there's any other comments, I was on the ERC when this was brought to us in April. and I'm not gonna repeat what everyone said, but I think it makes sense, given the timeline and the impact on this family and the inability to provide the existence of this permit. Unless there's any other questions or comments, I'm gonna go ahead and move to approve architectural review permit AR 24-003 and the use permit UP 24-004 based on findings 1 through 8 and conditions of approval 1 through 26.
Second.
Big motion and a second. Can we get roll call, please?
Chair DeRosa,
Yes.
Vice Chair Biassiatti.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Coon,
Aye.
Commissioner Harmon.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Right, motion is unanimous. Next step, planning commission is the final body for this project. Which it has been, there's a 10-day appeal period from the date of the planning commission's final action. The appeal should be made in writing and filed with the city clerk within 10 days after the final action of the planning commission, as described in section 12.140.020 of the San Bruno Municipal Code. Okay, folks. Thank you, folks. To 7C, 41 San Mateo Avenue. Request for a use permit to allow an auto body repair use at 1141 San Mateo Avenue, which is conditionally permitted in the industrial M1 district pursuant to section 12.96.150C of the municipal code. And I'm excited that we have presentation from Red Cat. Turn it over to you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Our third item on the agenda tonight is for the property at 1141 San Mateo Avenue. This is a request for a use permit to allow an auto body repair at 1141 San Mateo Avenue, which is conditionally permitted in the industrial M1 district. Following along, this is the subject site. As you can see, the subject lot is located between Atlantic Avenue and Scott Street within the industrial district. The subject property is situated on 2,613.6 square foot lot, which is historically used for auto body work and auto repair. The previous use permit for auto use expired years ago. Auto Class Solutions was required to apply for a new use permit. Before we can see the surrounding properties, the immediate neighboring businesses adjacent to the subject site predominantly operate in the auto industry. Diving into the proposed project, I will be discussing that the proposed project is to obtain a use permit for an auto body repair shop at 1141 San Mateo Avenue, which is Auto Class Solutions, specializing in various auto repair and detailing services. Request permission to operate in the existing building. The services include auto repair, detailing, frame straightening, and color matching. Notably, all paint services will be conducted off-site at a specialized auto facility. The shop will operate from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Monday through Saturday, with towing services available 24/7. Auto Class Solutions will also offer free pickup and delivery. One employee will manage business operations, and there are no plans for exterior modifications to the building, which has the capacity to service up to 8 vehicles simultaneously. Moving forward to the existing floor plan, from 2019 to 2021, the building was occupied by a business operating without a permit. The business conducted unpermitted alteration to the building. In 2021, a code enforcement case was initiated to remove the unpermitted partition walls, racks, air conditioning unit or system, associated ductwork, and electrical wiring. In 2022, the code case was resolved and restored back to its original condition. And here we have the proposed floor plan, which detail the minor modifications that were made, including 2 car lifts, a waste disposal, and triple panel. Here are some more photos of the project interior to show the capacity of up to 8 vehicles that can fit. So why does this project need a conditional use permit? Auto Class Solutions occupies 1141 San Mateo Avenue without a valid use permit, rendering the current use as non-conforming. A conditional use permit is required whenever industrial use has the potential to create negative impacts due to the emission of dust, odor, noise, glare, or other nuisances. Among the specified conditional uses are auto-related uses, including vehicle repair and maintenance. According to the municipal code, the term vehicle repair and maintenance encompasses activities related to the repair, alteration, restoration, or finishing of any vehicle. Dive into the key conditions of approval that I will be highlighting that staff is recommending, which are as follows. Parking utilization, the applicant must not use on-street parking. Only appointments or services within the shop are accepted. Vehicles needing overnight stay must be stored inside the facility. All business activities must occur inside the building. No vehicle servicing the driveway or on San Mateo Avenue. The auto body painting is prohibited unless a spray meeting California Building Standard Code and 2022 California Fire Code, along with the local San Bruno amendments, is installed. Only touch-up paint work combined with Bay Area quality management standards is permitted, requiring a permit for Bay Area quality management. The auto body repair shop must comply with all regulations in California Code of Regulations Title 22, Division 4.5, Chapter 30 for hazardous waste management, including proper storage, handling, labeling, and disposal of hazardous materials generated during automotive repair. Staff finds Auto Class Solution meets the required use permit findings as shown here and on the staff report. The staff recommends approval of UP 23-015 based on findings 1 through 3, conditions 1 through 31, and the planning commission is the final approval for this project. There is a 10-day appeal period from the date of the planning commission's final action. Appeals shall be made in writing and filed with the city clerk within 10 days after the final action of the planning commission and as described in the San Bruno Municipal Code. That completes my presentation. I believe the applicant is not here, but the designer is here. If there are any comments or questions.
Great job, thank you, Claire. Do you have any questions from? Community?
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone.
Cindy, she was the designer for project plans.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cindy. I'm here. I'm the assistant for Mr. Duran for creating plans and also providing relevant documents for his auto body repair shop. And we are here, like, hopefully we will get approval today, and then we will move on to the next step for building permit. For today's meeting, I'm actually with Mr. Duran next to me. So we might need assist with Spanish because Mr. Duran is not fluent in English. And it would be great if someone could help us to translate it to Mr. Duran. And yeah, he's right next to me right now. Thank you so much.
For Cindy, I will be translating for Jose. So any questions that planning commission has, I will translate that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So, comments, don't have any, sure for any questions and follow action. Let's see these, so I'm, it's looking forward to meet, so, I'm gonna move to approve use permit UP 23-015 based on findings 1 through 3 and conditions of approval 1 through 31. Second. Motion and a second. Can we get roll call, please?
Chair Durazo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Biassiatti.
Aye.
Commissioner Levine,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
I,
Commissioner Kim,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman.
Aye.
Motion back.
All right, motion is unanimous. Planning Commission's final project. 10-day appeal period, from the date of the planning commission's final action. Appeal shall be made in writing and filed with the city clerk within 10 days after the final action of the planning commission as described in section 12.140.020 of the San Bernardino Municipal Code.
Through the chair, can I translate the motion that was made to the second?
Por favor.
Hola José, solo le quiero informar que el comité de planificación acaba de aprobar su permiso para operar su negocio allí, 1141. Entonces ahorita vamos a entrar un periodo de 10 días. Si alguien del grupo quiere oponer la decisión del comité de planificación, ya que se acaben esos 10 días, entonces le voy a mandar un reporte informándole que su proyecto fue aprobado y después de allí ustedes pueden someter su permiso para construcción que necesitan agarrar. Entonces, eso es todo. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros hoy, esta noche, y también por servir de estar con nosotros. Entonces, tenga una buena noche y ahí hablamos.
Sí, muchísimas gracias.
Buenas noches.
Thank you so much.
So, gracias, thank you. Moving on to item 8, conduct of business. 8A, adoption of a resolution confirming conformance with the San Bruno General Plan pursuant to California Government Code Section 65401, fiscal year 24-25 capital improvement program budget. Yeah.
This moment, give the slideshow.
Yeah.
Good evening, planning commissioners. This item is the CIP general plan consistency review that we do every year. And my presentation for tonight includes a background for this requirement, a discussion of the project's recommendation, and following up with questions, which I hope to be able to answer. Because there aren't any other folks here to help me out, but anyway, we'll get through it. By way of background, there's a requirement in the government code that requires that the planning commission approve any capital improvement projects that yes, I should invest there. That improve any make a general plan consistency determination for any new any new CIP projects that are proposed for the upcoming year. And the purpose of that is just to make sure they're consistent with the general plan, so that the funds that are going to be expended on those improvements are consistent with the plans of the city. So discussion. The capital improvement program has 8 different sections to it, and it covers 8 different types of projects: water, sewer, stormwater, city net, parks, facilities, streets, and technology. So last year, if you remember our presentation, which you may not, we did a very extensive presentation because we went over the entire 5-year CIP program, so it included projects in most of these categories. So we were instructed by our chief financial officer that really the only projects we needed to look at tonight were just the ones that were newly added in the areas of facilities and parks. So for facilities, we have the senior center maintenance program and also the EV fleet infrastructure. I'll just let me go to my notes here on the facilities. So as you know, this particular building that we're in was built in 1987, and it's under continual use, night and day, 7 days a week with senior activities, meetings, also rentals. And so the starting budget for improvements to this building are $75,000 that was actually a gift to the city. And so that's the beginning of the capital improvement program, and it will then there's an additional $250,000 that the city would like to spend on improvements to the building over time. So as far as I guess I'll go back to also do the charging. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, so I'll also talk about the EV fleet infrastructure. So under the governor's executive order, there's a requirement that state and local agencies transform from fossil fuel to zero emission transportation beginning in 2024. 50% of medium and heavy duty trucks purchases must be zero emission, and beginning in 2027, 100% of purchases must be zero emission vehicles. So in order for the city to take advantage of potential funding opportunities and the fact that we're going to need EV infrastructure at our yard and elsewhere in the city to support these vehicles, the idea is to allocate $190,000 for this program, and but it's hoped that there would be grants and other funding available for the actual infrastructure. So this is the $190,000 is just for a master plan to start the project, and this would come from our special revenue fund. So looking through the general plan, there's not precise alignment with these programs and what's in our general plan. So we have policies which relate to them as closely as possible. So for this facility maintenance, we have QSR 14, which is continuous from our open space and recreation element, is to continue to support and expand adult programs and activities at the senior center, develop plans to expand the facility as needed to accommodate the city's senior population. Because of the limited footprint and the land we have available here, expansion is not possible, but that certainly we want to maintain the facility. Second, from the environmental resources and conservation element, related to EV charging budget for alternative fuel vehicles in the city's long-range capital expenditure plans to replace and improve the existing fleet of gasoline, diesel-powered vehicles. And finally, ERC 29, promote demonstration projects, develop new strategies to reduce motor vehicle emissions. Projects may include low emission vehicle fleets and LED refueling infrastructure. So that relates directly to the EV charging. So finally, for parks, there's 4 new projects that are being considered by the city council for addition to the CIP. City Hall, library, irrigation and landscaping, athletic field scoreboard replacement, citywide field lighting and fencing upgrades, and finally Crestmore pavements. So the City Hall Library irrigation landscaping, that would be the first step in that process would be to allocate $50,000 in funding to plan to do a master plan for upgrading the space around City Hall and the library, and ultimately to replace the existing plantings and irrigation to more efficient and drought tolerant plantings. So ultimately, once implemented, the city would probably save money in water, in water use primarily for that, and also just be better stewards of the resources. The athletics scoreboard replacement, these are in Lions Field at Commodore Park. The scoreboards are old, really can't be updated. And so there's a letter of commitment for $20,000 from baseball and girls softball groups, but additional funds would be needed to do the actual replacement. And then along those lines would be citywide field lighting and fencing upgrades, Laura Field and Lions Field, halide lighting, which is not no longer an efficient lighting source, so it'd be replacement to LED, and again, ultimately would result in more efficient lighting, more efficient and better lighting that would also reduce maintenance costs and electric use. And finally, Crestmore Fields, as the Planning Commission is aware from your recent approval recommendation to the City Council to approve the Crestmore project, part of that included the open space area, and there was a master plan created for that. And so an additional $150,000 is proposed to create the actual design and bid drawings for the field, so that we can understand what the costs are going to be to do those improvements. And so with that, we have several open space and recreation and public facilities policies that relate to that. So the first one is just to ensure that basically parks are ADA accessible, safe, and well maintained. So that applies to the City Hall improvements. Public facilities and services relates to water conservation, which the landscape upgrades would fall along those lines. And also to develop a schedule for retrofitting of existing public buildings with water conservation features. And then finally convert streetlights and traffic signals to LED and more efficient technology. So this one really doesn't relate directly to the field lighting or the scoreboards, but it's as close as we could get. And so really those are, becoming more efficient with our lighting citywide is consistent with the general plan. So with that, our recommendation is that you adopt resolution 2024-06, confirming that the fiscal year 2024-25 capital improvement program budget and its conformance with the San Bruno general plan is in conformance with the San Bruno general plan and is pursuant to California Government Code section 65401. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions from Commission? Anybody from public comment? I've seen anybody. Something good. It all seems like an alliance to me. I don't have comments. I'm gonna move to adopt a resolution confirming staff recommends adoption of a resolution confirming review of the fiscal year 2025 capital program budget and its conformance with the San Bruno General Plan pursuant to California Government Code Section 65401. A motion and a second, can we get a roll call, please?
Chair Daraza,
Yes.
Vice Chair Biassiatti.
Aye.
Commissioner Levine.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Coon.
Aye.
Commissioner Harmon.
Aye. Okay. Motion passes and unanimous. Which is item from staff 9A251 Tulare Drive, staff determination memo.
Yes, as the commissioner is aware, we provided a memo in your packet that just outlines the process that we went through for the approval of 251 Tulare Drive. It did go to the architecture review committee. So we wanted, for those of you that were on the architecture review committee when that item was heard, we would kind of wanted to close the loop with you and the rest of the commission to know our determination based on the changes that the applicant submitted. They provided a survey to show that the house is not within easement. They removed the side yard ingress egress window that was facing the neighbor's side yard, which is something that triggers a use permit. And then because the floor area of the new addition did not trigger any floor area exceptions or any of the triggers that require architecture review, once you subtract out the ADU square footage, really there was nothing left in terms of requiring that they continue to get a use permit approval from the planning commission. So the determination was made that they move straight to a building permit, and we did send a notice to all the neighbors of that fact.
So there no action required, we just let it cross, or do we have to?
It was just for informational.
Okay.
And unless you have any questions.
I'm not seeing any. 9B, selection of members for the June 13th, 2024 ARC meeting. Okay.
We'll likely not be having this meeting, but just wanted to get a couple members lined up just in the event that we do need to have a meeting. Okay. Okay, we have our three there. Thank you very much. And, as the commission's aware, we don't have the meeting on June 13th. And because of the process changes that will go into effect July 1st, it's unlikely, essentially most of the decisions will either be coming to the full planning commission or to staff. So all of the architecture review committee kind of, ceases after this June meeting anyway. So we are planning to come back to you, with more updates and information in July. We do have a very busy June meeting. We have like tonight, we have multiple agenda items, including a housing project at 111 San Bruno Avenue. So, but after that, the schedule lightens up a little bit for July and August. So we appreciate your work.
That's it. Thank you, Michael. Item 10, any comments from members? All right, I'm not seeing any, we're adjourned. Item 7 adjourned. The next regular meeting will be held on June 18th, 2024. Thank you. Have a good night.